Hi, I hope you're doing well out there today. I have a story to tell you, and I'm interested to know what you think the answer to this might be. Um, I, to tell you though, I have to go back to when I was a little girl. I was I was in the first grade, so however old you are in the first grade, I was young when I graduated high school. I was only, had just turned 17. So I guess I was 5 or 6, and I had this friend that lived down the street, and we played birds. I was not the type of little girl that played dolls, really. I loved dolls, and I had dolls, but I didn't really play with them. So we played birds, and we would take turns. She would be the mom, and I would be the baby, and then she would be the baby, and I would be the mom. And at the time, it just seemed like such a normal thing to do. I mean, I just had no idea that everybody wasn't playing birds. Turns out that might have been a kind of a strange thing to be doing, but um, yeah. So then I would. So that went on for several years while I lived there, and then I moved away. I started dreaming that I could fly all the time, and I used to dream this. Oh gosh, I mean, I don't know how long it went on, but I dreamed it for years and years. I dreamed I could fly, and it almost, looking back on it now, it seems like I dreamed it like every night. I'm sure I didn't dream it every night, but um, it wasn't that I was flying high up in the sky. I was flying low to the ground, like almost gliding, and but I still call them dreams of flying. And it would seem so real, like that. I mean, it's hard to describe how I would think, well, of course I can do that. And even in waking life, I would somehow like think, yeah, sure, I can fly like that, just lift my legs off the ground and, and hover and fly. And so these dreams went on for a long time, and then they just kind of, thinking back on it, abruptly stopped. Maybe they gradually stopped, but the way that I'm remembering it, it seems like they just abruptly stopped. And I've really never dreamed that I could fly anymore after that. But when life got busy with, I went to college, and then I got a job, and then I had a child, and I was busy with life things and all that comes along with life, and trying to do all the things that I was taught you're supposed to do. And I just sort of drifted away, I guess, from the person I was who believed I could fly. And I became very grounded in day-to-day life, and being a mom, and being an employee, and being a wife, and trying to be a good daughter, and all these things, trying to be a good citizen. And it didn't leave a lot of time for a whole lot of creativity. I would find some time for things like scrapbooking, and that would be off and on, though. It wasn't something that I just had a ritual and did all of the time. It was something that I would have to try really hard to make time, and it would come in bursts. Like I would, you know, um, cover the whole dining room table in my scrapbook things, and I would spend kind of the hyper-focused times working on that. And then, I would think, well, I need to put that away and get back to things. So I just say all that to say there wasn't a lot of time for noticing magic and beauty and all of those things that I did when I was a young girl that came so naturally, but wasn't really nurtured. It was, I guess, you'd say maybe looked down on, and it just didn't fit the environment that I was being raised in. And so I guess I just thought, as you know, this is the way the world works. There's just, you know, you don't engage in these kind of things. You do real life. So then in 2020, when the whole world shut down, I also had a personal situation going on that kind of required me to take a knee, take a beat, and slow down. It was the world slowing down, and I had to slow down too. And not just because of that, but because of personal things that happened. And so it had this miraculous, wonderful, unexpected consequence, giving me the opportunity to start to notice nature again, and to start paying attention to things, and to really just slow down. And I received this message, or, you know, if there are people out there, I know that if you're watching this and you've had this happen, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I received this message, and it wasn't this time like the whisper of whoever that is that knows things and comes through in your journals, that sometimes is in third person and kind of just whispers things. And, you know, it's like, well, they're much wiser than me. So I'm, you know, I've struggled to know exactly who that was. And lately I've come to some realizations about my thoughts about that, but maybe that's for another time. I'm seriously having trouble getting this needle through here. This is always the part of the journal making that is nerve-wracking to me. I've shared that before, that no matter how many times I do this, I'm always nervous about it. It always gets done, but it's the hardest part to me of making a journal, and I always dread it. And I think, oh man, I know I've got to do that, but I put it off until close to the last minute. But anyway, I got this message that, like I said, it didn't whisper like the other message. I was sitting around my kitchen table, actually, with several friends and my husband, and it said rather loudly and in no uncertain terms, pay attention, pay attention. And it was one of those moments that you never forget. So I wrote it down. It's in my journals. It was pasted around my craft room at the time. And at the time, it wasn't a whole lot of a craft room because I wasn't allowing myself really much time for crafting. It was what I called my sanctuary, which I still call my craft room my sanctuary, but it was more my journaling, writing, and meditating space. And I would go there every morning before work, when I was still working at the job before 2020. And I would paste important things there. And so that was there. Pay attention, pay attention. And so I did start paying attention, and I started noticing all kinds of things. And then we moved to the apartment where I started my channel, and I was already really paying a lot more attention and starting to find things all the time. Synchronicities were happening just at a crazy rate that I couldn't explain it to people. I would talk to my husband about it, and he would see a lot of it, and he would say, well, I mean, it's obvious that something really important's happening, but how would you ever share this? How would you ever explain it to anybody if they didn't see it? And I really can't. I mean, I've tried to explain it to a few people, and yeah, it's just not something that's. It's kind of that has to be lived. So if you've lived this kind of thing, then I know you'll know what I'm talking about. And now I've gone through the wrong hole. So this is what I mean about doing this. It's just nerve-wracking, and now I'm gonna have to. What am I gonna do? Maybe I'll just leave it. It's black and really won't be noticeable, I don't think, to be honest. I think I'm just gonna leave it. I'm not gonna mess with trying to redo that. It's not necessary. So anyway, I started feeding the birds, which I guess some people think that's interfering with nature, and yeah, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I started feeding the birds, and these right outside of my window at the apartment. And if you've watched other videos of mine, you've seen me talk about it. You've seen pictures of them probably, and just some amazing birds and things that they would like. I don't know, I guess I say that they gave me the message, and that's the best way I know how to tell you, but I was just paying attention to them, spending time with them, and they would leave me with these wisdom nuggets, like life message type of things. And so that's a message for another time. But anyway, birds going, this thread goes back to childhood. So sorry about that. I got interrupted, and now I've got these earbud things in, and so I'm not sure what that's going to do to the sound. I've been experimenting with we're not experimenting, but researching and trying to get a microphone, because I don't have the proper equipment to do some of the videos I've been doing lately, and so I sound like I'm in a barrel when I try to make those. But anyway, where was I? So I've already gotten all of this bound in, and I've started doing the little beads here. Just gonna, I guess, zoom in on that part. So I'm making the little bead tassels. That'll be at the bottom of the journal. I really like that, how that feels and looks. So, and I've got all these little beads here. The bigger ones I'm going to use on the tassel, and then these little ones I'm going to use down here. So I'm just tying a knot up at the top to keep the beads from sliding up, and I'm just making that knot be right here, like at the bottom of the page. And I have still not gotten myself another bead threader since I broke it I broke my last one making the vase out of the Dollar Tree mop. Was that when I broke it? Yeah, that's right, because I was trying to pull those beads through and it broke. And so here I have my here's one piece of it. Here's the other, and I'm just trying to make do. I really need to get another one. These things are just super, super handy for threading beads. I give that credit to my yoga teacher who taught me that when I went to a mala making class at her studio, and she had those, and I thought, well, where has this been all my life? But so where was I? So anyway, we were feeding the birds at the apartment, and all these birds would visit, and so like I could tell you some stories about what all happened there and show you some pictures of those birds, but wanted to get to what happened here and what I wanted to know your opinion on, see if you know what this bird might be trying to say. If you have experience with this, I would really love to know what you think. So I was sitting on, well, let me first say, it took us a long time to find a house with the market and everything, and I really got away from my crafting, and I've missed that, and I was having a hard time hearing the whispers and paying attention. So anyway, I was sitting on my deck one day, just taking a break, and I never get on Facebook just to scroll, but I do have a marketplace account, and so I was checking our marketplace listings. We had to sell a lot of things, and like I've mentioned in a couple of the videos, I've been letting go of a lot of things that I've been carrying for a long time, that it was time to let them go. And so I was going through that whole process. Anyway, I was taking a break and sitting there, and for whatever reason, I clicked over to the regular Facebook, and I could probably count on, both hands the times that I've done that in the past few years. But I got stopped by this, I guess it was a reel of this person, a lady who was using this calligraphy pen, and she was writing. It was so beautiful, but she was just getting started. It was on a white piece of paper, and so I was just watching her, kind of mesmerized, as she was taking this black pen and creating these letters just in this beautiful flowing way. And it was kind of almost putting me in a little bit of a trance or something, and so I'm watching and I'm reading it as she's going, and it says something important is happening, and then the last word was now, and I read it, something important is happening now. And I thought, well, that is very interesting that I would just stop on this video. And so I thought I should look up, and I shouldn't be staring at my phone. So I looked up, and just then this little bird, I'm not sure what kind of bird it is, I should look that up, but a little brown bird with a long beak flew right up on the screen on my patio, and it just sat there and looked right at me. And I thought, holy cow, this is amazing. This bird has come here, and it's important, and I need to be paying attention. And so that was one of those moments of, like knowing this is really important. But it didn't tell me anything. I didn't hear a message or anything like that this time. And I can't really remember how long it stayed there or anything, but it left, and slowly I went on about my day, and I told my husband about it when he got home, and I journaled about it, and I'll never forget that. It was important. But some time passed, and then I would start seeing this bird, and I was assuming it was the same bird, although, didn't necessarily have to be the same bird. But to me, I was like, well, that's that bird. And it would come up to the patio outside the screen, and it would sit on the rail of the outside part of the deck. And I thought, well, this bird just really likes, coming up here, and it's fine with me. I like it coming. And then a few days ago, I don't know, it's been about a little over a week now, I was sitting at the computer and I heard this rustling on the patio out there, and um, my cat was out there, Lola, and I thought, well, what is she doing? And so I got up and I went, and she had caught that bird, and she had it in her mouth, and she came over to the sliding door, and I opened the door, and she just, looked up at me with this bird in her mouth, and I thought, oh no, this is terrible, and so I reached down and she let me have the bird, and I put it in my hand, or it was in my hand, and I petted it, and it just kind of laid there, was motionless, and I thought, oh no, what, has she hurt the bird? What's going to happen? What do I need to do? And as I'm thinking that and stroking it, it came to its senses. I guess it was kind of in shock, and it flew out of my hand, and there was a crack in the screen door, and it flew over there and found its way, flew out. And I thought, oh my gosh, I hope it's okay. Thank goodness it's free, and I just, pray that it's going to be okay. And so a few days passed, and I was at the computer again, and we keep the screen door cracked just a little bit, propped open, with this little concrete statue, and then we keep our sliding door open just enough for Lola to get inside. So there's those two spaces there that the cat, she can get in and out when she wants to. And so I'm sitting there at the computer, and I hear this rustling sound, like, and I thought, well, what is she doing? Assuming it's the cat. And so I keep hearing it, and it's getting closer and closer, and like it's something walking on the kitchen floor. And I thought, well, I'm gonna go see what she's doing. And as I got up and turned, there was that bird. It had navigated its way through both of those cracks, come in the house, and walked from the living room into the kitchen, and was coming out from, it was passing the refrigerator. And I, like, what in the world? And so it sees me, and it just keeps walking on over to the door, to the side door. And it sat there for a minute, and then it turned and flew into the living room, and I followed it. Then it flew into the hallway, and it landed in the hallway floor. And then I walked up, and I thought, I just don't need to scare it and get too close, so I'm going to try to go around it, and I'll open the front door, and hopefully it'll just go out. And as I got up close enough to open the front door, it flew back into the living room. And so I thought, well, if I open that door really wide, maybe it'll find its way back out, and it'll go out that crack, and it'll be gone. And Lola was not in the house. She was outside somewhere. So that's what I did. I opened that door, and it had, I forget where it was at that moment when I opened the screen door, but it wasn't right there. So then I saw it again, and it flew, and before I could get back to where it was gone. And I thought, well, it made its way out that door. And I was really surprised by that. I thought, how in the world did it do that? How did it know to just go out that door? But that's what I thought it had done. And so I was thinking, well, what in the world was that bird? What does it want? I mean, why is it so persistent on what it's doing? Is it trying to find me? Is it why is it, even though it had already been caught by the cat coming into the screen porch like that, it risks its life again to come back inside, not only to come into the screen porch, but to come all the way into the house, and then to walk in the house and not fly. And it's just like, what in the world is this bird trying to tell me? And so then Lola came back in, and I'm still thinking that the bird's gone outside. And she started looking at the curtain rod in the dining room, and I thought, uh-oh, that bird is still in the house. And so I scooped her up and put her in the guest room. And I came back in, and sure enough, there was the bird on the curtain rod. And so I thought, oh my gosh, I need to get him or her to go out the front door. And how am I going to do that? So I have doors on each side of the craft room, so I thought, well, I'll open those and then open the other one and open the front door, and hopefully it will just fly out. I was wishful thinking. But it did fly into the craft room, and it flew up on the curtain rod here in the craft room. And if you saw one of my recent videos, you'll see him or her sitting on my curtain rod in my craft room. And so if anybody had seen me, they would think, what in the world is going on with this lady? Because I'm trying to talk to this bird and say, please just go out the front door. And, what is it you're trying to tell me? And I just didn't hear whatever it was. I didn't hear a message this time, which is, like I said, unusual, because usually the messages come so easily when the birds visit like that. And I've never had one with this kind of multiple interactions and such what seems like intentional engagement from the bird. I mean, not this much. And so I told it, I said, please fly out the front door. And it did. It came off the curtain rod and it flew out the front door, and I haven't seen it since. But I just can't stop thinking about, what does this bird want to tell me? And I just thought, well, maybe if I ask you, maybe somebody watching this video, you might know, or you might have an idea, or something like this might have happened to you. I would love to know what you think. And I know I ask you a lot to share, and I know some people just aren't comfortable doing that. I want to assure you that I'll make this as safe a space as possible to share. So if you feel like it, if you have any idea, please let me know. And I do hope you haven't been too bored with watching my hands in this video and not doing very much on this journal. These are the things that take just a really lot of time that most of the time I don't show, because it's the tedious part that I figure most people would just find super boring. But I thought I would just share this story with you today and ask you to please let me know if you have any idea what in the world this bird might be telling me. And I'll put his picture, the little video of him, at the end here. I'm so glad you're here, and I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope to see you soon. Have a great day. Bye.